They say change is good as a holiday. So today I've let my hair down, we've got a different pair of spectacles on, and we're gonna do something different. We're gonna talk about some different games. And by different, I mean unique, something that stands out. Maybe you've been playing a lot of platformers lately, a lot of Metroidvanias, and you're like, Eric, I'm sick of the same old genres. Throw something different at me. And today, that is exactly what I'm doing. Let's start off with our first different game here, that is Yoku's Island Express. Now this game just spills different, you know what, I said Metroidvania at the start, and my first game is part Metroidvania. Anyway, Yoku's Island Express. This game is basically a pinball adventure game with a little bit of Metroidvania spilled in over the top. I know that sounds weird, but it's extremely fun. And I think what it boils down to, what makes this so fun for me, that playing pinball is just fun in itself. I love playing pinball in itself. And when you throw that in with an adventure game where I get to explore a colorful landscape with like tropical tunes playing in the background, that's extremely fun. It actually has a really big world map to explore, and every new location is kind of exciting to visit. You go from down in the caves to like up in the sky, icy zones. I'm not going to spoil anymore, I've probably spoiled too much already. And each zone is just like its own pinball board that just feels really different from the last one, and I love that. I really don't know if there's been a pinball adventure before, but if there hasn't, it's about time there should be. This was literally one of my favorite games last year. I didn't make a favorite games list of last year, but if I did, this would definitely be in my top 5. In fact, I rarely get time to finish a game to 100% completion lately. And this is one of those games that I did. I just did everything in it, and I enjoyed like almost every second of it. Almost, it's very detractive to end on there. I enjoyed every second of it.
Even legends grow old.
Ooh, this next one, I want to take you all the way back to when the Switch launched. And the reason I want to do this is because I think a lot of people have picked the Switch up since the console launched. Obviously not everyone got it on launch day. Probably a pretty small percentage of people actually did. And so there's this game that came on launch day that I'm not sure if a whole lot of people played. Let's stop beating around the Has-Been Hero bush and mention the game is Has-Been Heroes. Now I'm going to come right out and say this. The game has a few flaws. It's not perfect, but I had a lot of fun with it. And it's on this list because not only was it fun, but it was just really unique. They combined basically Plants vs Zombies gameplay where you have like your lanes of enemies or zombies coming in from one side. And I don't know what they actually combined it with, but they made it really unique. Basically, you have 3 lanes there and you control 3 warriors. The zombies coming in from the other side, they have like defense ratings for each one. So some of them might be 1, some of them might be 3, some of them might be even more than that. And the heroes were the 3 you start with anyway, because you do unlock more. There's a lot of unlockables in this, by the way. The heroes that you start with, each one has an attack of either 1 hits or 2 hits or 3 hits. And the idea is to break the zombies' defense down. Once it's broken, you can do like a king hit on them and do a bunch of damage at once, which will also knock the zombies back. And being in that kind of roguelike genre, as you progress through each kind of map, you're going to unlock a bunch of spells and different abilities to use as you're going through it to help you combat the hordes of zombies. And you're going to need it because they get really hard towards the end. If I had to note one downside, the one kind of thing that kind of pulled it down, as I mentioned from the start for me, is that they're really long playthroughs. Being in the roguelike genre, you might be expecting something like Dead Cells or something like that, where it's like, you know, each playthrough doesn't take you that long. You just kind of bounce in, bounce out, have your fun, and off you go. This one, you basically sign a contract for that day. You're gonna jump in, at the start actually it's not too bad, but you're gonna jump in and it starts off doing like the first 2, I don't know, they have a map for each area, so you start by doing the first 2 maps, and then after you've done that, you unlock the 3rd one, so then you start from the start again obviously, you do 1, 2, 3, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and by the end of the game you're doing like 6 or 7 maps in a row, and it is a time commitment. Like it was taking me, maybe I'm just slow at this game, but it was taking me like I think 3 hours to complete, which I did end up finishing the game. I didn't get all the collectibles though. But if you're after something unique, this is like right up there. Speaking of right up there, this next one just cranks the heat up to the next level. Battle Chef Brigade. I played this as soon as it came out. It was like December of the year before last, which would make it 2016. And it was just so different. Again, it's one of those colorful color palette games. And that's always what kind of attracts me to this type of game, but it's not why I signed into it. What makes this so fun is that they basically said, all right, let's combine Iron Chef with some sort of puzzle game and, I don't know, 2D beat 'em up combat as well. And they threw them all together in the pot and said, whoop, here you go, eat up. And it tasted delicious. What you basically do in this game is you're going to be cooking dishes for judges. Obviously you're going up against some competition, which you never really see unless you're playing like 2-player against each other. And to make these dishes, it's basically like a match 3 puzzle game. That in itself is very basic, but it's still really fun. And they start throwing more elements the further you get into this game, which keeps it fresh and keeps it fun. The trick is here though, you don't just get stuff in your collectible puzzle area to do your puzzles with. You actually have to run out into this garden area, beat up some monsters, beat up some dragons, and drag their bones back into the kitchen to cook. And depending on the gems, you'll change the type of recipes that you're cooking and the things that you're actually making. And there's a lot else that goes into this, but I think the thing that I really have to mention stands out to me probably the most here. It's just how charming the story is. Like, it just hooked me in, strapped me on, and just kept me going the whole way. But, you know, actually chapter 5, I think it was, slowed down a little bit, but the rest of it was really good. And that was only because the character change kind of took me out of it for a little bit. But the rest of it was just, it was a lot of fun. Fun story. You know, I have no idea what a fun story is, but it was still just super charming, and I'm glad I played through this. It was one of my favorite games, as most of these games we're going through are, of 2016.
Oh, worst hangover ever.
Now this brings us to the last game on my list here. And I think the reason this stands out the most to me is that this is not an Eric sort of game. I don't generally play a lot of FPS games. But this one, I was just kind of like, you know, I'm going to give it a go. I'll see what it's like. It has these elements that are similar to a game called Rogue Legacy. And I enjoyed that game immensely. So I thought, yeah, well, I'll give this a go. But Immortal Redneck just surprised the hell out of me with how much fun I had with this game. The speed of the game, it's kind of similar to playing a game like Unreal Tournament or Quake, where everything's really fast paced. But what's done really well here is that it suited the Switch perfectly because they cranked the auto aim up a little bit. Now, I know that doesn't sound very purist of me saying, oh, well, I enjoyed playing with auto aim up really high. But it makes this type of fast-paced game, especially playing on a console, extremely fun. And you have a lot of guns to play around with, and just exploring this pyramid, which obviously it starts off on big floors in the bottom and gets smaller as you go to the top, and there's multiple of them. It was just a lot of fun slaying my way through enemies. It's by no means easy, but being a roguelike, what actually happens is every time you kind of exit or die and go back down to the start, you get to choose a new hero who you unlock through this skill tree, which also powers up your hero. And this is where it kind of becomes similar to Rogue Legacy. I don't know how many of you have actually played that, but it's basically you have a literal skill tree that you can purchase new characters, new abilities, just power up your health or anything else like that, maybe defense and attack. So that next time you actually go back into the pyramid, you're better equipped to kind of handle it, and you just gotta rely on the drops that hope that you get some good guns drop. And they even encourage you to use different heroes because the heroes are quite different from each other, even what they even take into each dungeon. So like some of them will take different guns and everything, but they encourage it by saying, if you use the same hero, then next time you go in there, the other hero is gonna be even more powerful. So they'll level up some of the stats to say, why don't you try giving this one a go? Anyway, that's my overview of 4 games that I just think are really different, really unique, and actually a whole lot of fun. That's the reason I chose these 4 and not other ones. Also, I wanted to focus on games that are a little bit smaller, maybe a little less known. Obviously, games like Splatoon are really different from like other games that I've played before, but everyone knows about them. I really wanted to get some games here that maybe everyone didn't know, so they can say, you know, I want to find something different and unique to play on the Switch. I don't want to play the same type of games I've been playing a lot of. And that's basically what this was. Also, this video, I don't know, I was kind of out of ideas today, and so I was just like, I've got to think of something different, and that's where the idea of this video came with. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and yeah, thank you for joining me. Remember, for great Nintendo entertainment, you can count on me. I just finished up the editing, and my nephew came around this morning, and we've been playing Minecraft together, and it just reminded me, I got it for him for Christmas, just reminded me how much fun Minecraft is. I love this game. I wish I had more time to pump into it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it was certainly was mine back in the day. So yeah, Minecraft. Goodbye.